the regular season, so I'm not going to talk about the playoffs. People probably have their different opinions based on what they saw in the playoffs. I'm excluding the playoffs and just looking at the regular season. Both these coaches got their teams to 13 wins.
But not all 13 wins are equal.
Sure, whatever, Neil. But even still, I don't think anyone saw the Niners winning 13 games, and no one saw LaFleur coming out the gate and even winning his division this year.
Yeah, it's fair.
Because especially with all the, quote, headbutting that was going on between him and Rodgers in the offseason as far as not being able to call audibles.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be very underrated when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback starting for you. I mean, that's tough.
I mean, there's not much else in that offense as far as wide receivers either.
Yeah. You're also basing that on the fact that they had that Muppet McCaffrey in there for all those years.
Offensive player of the year, this often goes to the non-quarterback. The PFWA did in fact vote Lamar Jackson for offensive player of the year. Pro Football Talk voted Michael Thomas in this position. Wide receiver hasn't won the award since the 90s, so
I'm guessing Jerry Rice.
It would be very interesting to see.
I hope it's Chris Carter.
Probably could have been Chris Carter, quite honestly.
Wouldn't that be great?
I'll go look it up right now while you guys discuss offensive player of the year.
It's very difficult.
I don't have a problem. No, go ahead, Neil.
I was going to say you, James. I mean, do you just choose the next best quarterback, or do you go for a skill player? I like a skill player would get it. I think quarterbacks get too much. They always get the MVP pretty much. So Michael Thomas, it's hard to go against Michael Thomas with his great. He broke the reception record, didn't he?
Yeah, and that's what's so crazy about Michael Thomas this season. And I think he should get the Offensive Player of the Year again. This should be the non-quarterback Offensive Player of the Year award. For various reasons, like you said, quarterback always wins MVP. They don't need Offensive Player of the Year as well. I don't see any running back who really stood out. Well, I mean, you want to take into account Christian McCaffrey's 1,000-yard double as far as rushing and receiving.
Of course,
he'd get a couple of votes, but I mean, still, what Michael Thomas did on a team that legit, position-wise, has at least 2 or 3 other wide receivers who don't get the ball. I mean, second place as far as receptions this year was 25, 30 receptions behind him. I know he was top 3 as far as touchdowns and yards as well in those categories. But
I think the difference
crazy.
The difference for me between McCaffrey and Thomas is that defenses can stop Thomas getting the ball, whereas they can't stop McCaffrey getting the ball because the quarterback hands it to him. So I think Thomas deserves that for just getting open. He must have been double. I wonder what percentage of snaps he was double teamed this year.
It had to be in every, because he was the only option for Drew Brees. Yeah. By the way, Jerry Rice. It was in fact Jerry Rice in 1993, the last receiver to get the offensive player. Last year, by the way, was Patrick Mahomes, who I believe was also the MVP last season.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. All right, well.
But last year there wasn't another offensive player who stood out worthy of the award.
The only other player who would stand out this year, but it might have been too late for the voting, would be Henry, the running back.
Yeah, it was probably too late.
Yeah,
too late for the voters. Yeah.
He didn't, honestly, he didn't have. I mean, he ended up. We talked about this last week. He ended up leading the league in rushing, and only had, and his 100-yard games weren't very plentiful.
Not early on, no. That's right. Yeah.
Defensive Player of the Year, the PFWA voted Stephon Gilmore from the New England Patriots at.
I have no argument with that.
Cornerback.
That his bad game. I can't remember who he played against. He had a really poor game towards the end of the season, but that was probably too late again for the voters. But it's a difficult year this year. There was no. Yeah. Against, was it Devontae Parker he played against who tore it to shreds?
Yeah, the Dolphins, the last game of the season.
But that was last game of the season. It's too late. I honestly, Jay, it's a shame to say, oh, it was a poor year, so let's give it to Gilmore. We've got to realize Gilmore did actually have a fantastic season, and that doesn't just because there was no other real candidates, that doesn't make it any less of an achievement.
I mean, the sack leader, I believe, ended up being Chandler Jones.
Shaq Barrett? No, Jones?
No, I don't think.
Barrett got overtaken at some point.
Yeah.
Because he missed 2 games in the last 4 weeks.
You ever regret that trade, Jay?
The Chandler Jones one?
He's been a consistent sack guy over all those years, isn't he? Very consistent.
It's it's one of the more it's one of the more head scratchers for sure. Offensive Rookie of the Year, PFWA voted Josh Jacobs, the running back from Oakland. I'll throw out some of the rookie quarterbacks like Gardner Minshew or Kyler Murray.
No. Yeah.
James, before you go in, James, did you notice that there? That was an opportunity to speak about the Patriots, but interestingly, Jay didn't take up that option. It was very quickly moved on to the next theme.
Let's just take the gift and run with it. Jay, I would say no to Gardner Minshew, yes to Kyler Murray, and I think Kyler Murray will get it because, if I recall correctly, Jacobs missed the last 2 games of the season with a shoulder injury.
If this award was, well, yeah, I mean, no, it hasn't been a great year for offensive talent at the rookie position, has it?
Between Jacobs and Murray, that's about it. I mean, it should be one of those 2 guys no one else should get consideration for.
There's a slew of wide receivers, but they were all kind of okay, not great.
Right.
Nah. I mean, A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel come to mind, but they,
Scary Terry.
You know what? Don't mention his name to me ever again, okay?
Hey, he's going to be a great player.
Defensive Rookie of the Year is going to be an easy one. That's Nick Bosa, San Francisco 49ers. That one's solid. Now, Comeback Player of the Year could be an interesting conversation because I don't think there was anyone who had a horrifying injury the year before and came back and had a pretty good, solid year this year. The PFWA voted Ryan Tannehill, which is an odd one. But our good boy Monty there says that Darren Waller for the Raiders should be considered in this particular category.
Yeah, when I saw this list, listener, we've got a list on. Jay's done a page of notes for us, and it's got all these players of the year and names, and then it's got Comeback Player of the Year, and next to it says Monty. And I was thinking, what's Monty done? Which game what does he play? Is that from his years of alcohol abuse? You realize
that Monty is the other linebacker on the other side of the field from you, Neil, in the Pro Bowl.
Oh, right.
That's why you don't realize who Monty is, because you're never over there.
Oh my God,
that's right. I think Ryan Tannehill is a fair selection. That was a great story, wasn't it?
Is it a comeback?
Well, anybody who can survive playing for the Miami Dolphins for 7 years, that's got to be something special.
Set you up good for that one.
Yeah, and he'll probably win it because he's a quarterback. And the Titans did win under him as opposed to Mariota. Not to mention he got them from 2-4 to the playoffs as a wild card, albeit. Waller probably, based on the merit of the award, is probably more deserving based on Monty's assessment, because watching Hard Knocks, I didn't know who Waller was until then. And the fact that he actually survived and made the team after Hard Knocks, because, again, we talk about how a lot of the guys they focus on end up getting cut anyway. Didn't have a great season, solid for a tight end, or average tight end, not one of your stars or standouts, but he complemented that offense well.
It's also,
PFWA has a Most Improved Player of the Year award, and Ryan Tannehill gets that, and I think that's more fitting than Comeback Player of the Year.
Right.
Well,
Most Improved, yes, Tannehill, not Comeback though. Like you said, Comeback would be like if what's the receiver's name that the Patriots had that ended up in Seattle who got suspended again?
Josh Gordon.
Josh Gordon.
Gordon. Again, now, Gordon comes back and actually plays an entire 16 games without incident. He will automatically be Comeback Player of the Year.
Sure.
Well, having said that, if you've been physically abused by a dolphin for 7 years and you come back and have the season that you did, it's a reminder.
Neil,
well, James, it's a reminder.
No, Neil, I'm pretty sure Flipper's dead.
it is a reminder to everybody that sometimes where you end up getting taken in the draft, the team you end up with, the coaching, the scheme that the team has, that can have a huge influence on a guy's career. Remember, he was like was he picked number 8 overall in the RG3 Andrew Luck draft? And so for him to come back from that, and that's a great story. I love the story. Great to see a guy who was supposed to be a franchise quarterback and failed at one team to come back and do so well. Maybe it says to us that we shouldn't just make these instant decisions that this player's a bust and this player's a success so quickly. Give them another chance. They are sort of human beings after all.
Well, Ryan Tannehill will join a big group of free agent quarterbacks this offseason. And it's an interesting offseason for quarterbacks with Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, both Titans quarterbacks, and Tannehill and Mariota, Jameis Winston, just amongst the many that are
Tom
free
Brady.
agents. I mentioned Tom Brady right off the bat, Neil.
Yeah,
Thanks for listening. There is one that will not join them, and that is Eli Manning, who is calling it a career and retiring on Friday. Poor Eli. Poor Eli.
Can I link this back to the Hall of Fame story that we had a little while ago?
He's not a Hall of Famer.
Well, hold on. I think there's something that tells me, he's retired this year so that he gets into it's 5 years, isn't it, after you've retired?
Yes.
And I think he's trying to get in there first before you end up with Brady, Breeze, these kind of Rivers, these kind of guys who he's going to go against. That's why he's retiring now, so he can have that clear run at it in 5 years' time to get into the Hall of Fame.
That is an excellent conspiracy theory, and I like it.
There you go.
Because you're 100% right. If he's on the same ballot as Brady, Breeze, and all these other guys, it's over. Eli's not getting it.
Whereas in 5 years, if he's on the same ballot as Hutchinson, Faneca, Atwater, and Colomano, he's in, yeah? He's in the first time.
I think so.
It goes back to my old theory there. If you're telling the story of the NFL over the last 10, 15 years, can you tell that story without Eli Manning? No, you probably can't.
No, unfortunately, you can't.
Sorry, Jed, I wasn't taking a shot at you. It's just a fact that I think you can't do that.
No, you can't. And there's another ridiculous NFL 100 thing going on right now where fans can vote for the greatest moment of all time in NFL history. And right now, the helmet catch is amongst the 4 finalists, along with the immaculate reception, the catch, and the undefeated Dolphins.
Okay. But that helmet catch needs to be replaced with the touchdown reception by Nick Foles in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, that was one of the final. At one point, there were 4 moments that were all Patriot related, all like negative Patriot related moments.
Awesome sauce.
that were part of the semifinals. But no, the helmet catch was the only one that actually made it here to this round. And whoever wins this round, it will be the greatest moment of all time in NFL history. And I'm very curious as to if the Pittsburgh fans or the Dolphins fans are going to come out on top, because quite honestly, I think those are the two that are going to win.
Well, it's a very good website because this is my 19th vote for the helmet catch, so going well so far.
God, how dare you? Instead of talking about Brady, let's talk about Phillip Rivers, because Neil, you shared with us on our Slack group a wonderful report from Jason LaConfora, who says, hearing a lot of buzz about Tampa as a possible landing spot for Phillip Rivers. As reported back in late November, he and the Chargers were likely headed to parting of the ways. And it has been reported solidly that Phillip Rivers has permanently moved his family to Florida. We know that previously, Phillip did not want to move his family to L.A. and thus commuted daily from San Diego to L.A. on this fang-dangled bus thing that they made for him. So if he's going to continue doing that, the only way to do that would be with one of the Florida teams. I just don't think Phillip Rivers in Tampa Bay makes a heck of a lot of sense for Tampa Bay.
No,
absolutely not. You might as well stay with Jameis Winston and hope his interceptions get cut in half.
Yeah, I can't see them giving up on Winston just yet.